my little sister was home for a few weeks, and she's doing like a cool. She's an engineer. She's a sustainability and civil engineer major at Wheaton College. Yeah, really cool thing. And so she has another friend who has a similar degree, and because they're in part of the sustainability, I think they call it cohort at Wheaton, they have a specific thing they're doing this summer where they're going out to South Dakota, and they have like an internship / classes out there. They're going to the Badlands, doing a lot of hiking. They're learning. It's specifically sustainability class, which is cool. And
what is that noise?
I think it's our table.
Is it a wire wiggling somewhere?
I don't think so.
I just don't want it to be picked up in the back. We just had a podcast with Andrew
D'Alessandro.
Yeah, the hardest name to say.
It was the coolest name at the time.
And my nose was running like a sieve because I had a cold.
Oh no! Were you snorting?
I was like,
oh, just like me on the Mills in the podcast. It was horrible.
Trying to keep the snot on a yo-yo, and I think he was too because it was cold in there, and our noses were running. So I'm trying to be sensitive to the background noise. Also, do you do the noise cancellation?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Always noise canceling and always compression.
Yeah, the compression.
Also, I remember that day, a certain someone being like, Nicholas, you only have a sweater on. Oh, you're going to be freezing this whole podcast.
Well, yeah.
And there was one guy who wasn't sniffling.
Yeah.
And he only had a sweater.
That's because your nose is always stuffed.
Yeah, dude. My allergies right now are terrible.
You were sitting close to the Indian grass and you were swollen. You were swollen shut.
No airflow in or out. Okay.
Yeah, but back to your sister being a sustainability
so
engineer.
She's in the sustainability. And her friend, who's like apparently a pretty good friend, whose major is just environmental science. Just a good friend of my little sister. And I went, oh, has my sister told you about our podcast? Well, no, she hasn't told me about it. We were hanging out for dinner because the friend was driving through to pick up Mariah to go to South Dakota. My own sister has a good friend in sustainability and environmental science, specifically in the Midwest. Doesn't even. I mean, I've never felt so betrayed in my life.
Yeah. Did she listen to it?
I don't know. I told her about it. I mean,
the youths are probably over podcasts.
Dude, we're a bunch of bro monkeys. This young 19-year-old lady, she doesn't care about what we have to say. Yep. You know what I mean? We're like 8 brain cells away.
One
from
of us
being
is 40 now.
Yeah. Hey.
Easy. I didn't hear a word of what you guys just said because Nick's glasses are so dirty. They look like they're frosted.
They look like his windshield.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what's going on.
There's so much Casey's pizza grease on those glasses.
Here's what's going on. The side little thing that holds them, that has this tension on them.
Oh,
you
can't look too closely at them. It starts falling apart quick.
Oh yeah. So those broke on both sides. They broke within a few days, and so there's nothing that was keeping them on my head. So I tied this string on the back.
He's very proud of this fix.
I tied the string and I used a little piece of tape to go up and down the string to hold it tight against my head. But here's the problem. It's very fragile. So I can't take it off and on to just quickly wipe my glasses because it kind of falls apart easily. So we just let it be, and we just let it be dirty. And I'm pretty sure I'm legally blind to the justice system as I drive with how dirty my glasses are.
In conjunction with the windshield.
Yeah, and he made fun of my vision before we started this podcast. My unaided vision. All I see is with the naked eye.
Dude, the other day I was making fun of this person for wearing glasses, like a friend of mine. And that person and my wife look at me like I just forget that I wear glasses all the time. It's not a part of me, you know? There's things that are about you. Like I watch anime.
Yeah.
Ken spends a lot of time in the bathroom. There's just things. There's things about people that's it's just part of them. One of them on my list is not glasses. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But Riley, what's one of your top ones on that list?
Things about Riley. The Vans shirt, the camo Vans shirt.
Yeah, the Vans shirt. Or I'm starting to wonder about my vision. I spend a lot of time squinting now.
Oh no, dude!
It's real.
It's real.
The boiled frog. I remember being in the back of a church one day and being like, I don't understand how they expect us to read those words. I was in college. And my friend looked at me like, I don't think you can drive anymore.
It's size 72 Helvetica, dude. Come on.
And my friend let me borrow their glasses. I was like, oh no. I need these.
You just didn't give them back.
These are the same glasses.
Years later.
Thank you.
Oh man. All right. You guys saw the title of this episode, so we'll just we'll jump in. Coffee Time Wednesdays with the Prairie Farm Podcast.
Can't hit us with the jingle.
When I was in college, I worked for a marketing company, and it was a small marketing company, and my boss, he was a really cool guy, and I remember him taking me to lunch one day and telling me, Nicholas, the most important thing you'll do in business is name your company. I don't know if that's true or not, but you better believe I was blown away when I met the company Iowa Cover Crop. I mean, it's a brilliant name, but it's a little misleading because you might think, oh, okay, they do cover crops. But they actually do a lot more than cover crops. Basically, if it's not corn and beans, they probably have it. You're talking about grains, alfalfas, lawn mixes, cover crop mixes, forage mixes. They do all sorts of things. In fact, they even have CRP and native mixes. I really like the people who provide those for them. If you are looking for anything that's not corn and beans and seed and you're in Iowa or a state touching Iowa, I highly, highly recommend looking into Iowa Cover Crop. That's iowacovercrop.com. Oh, and they have a new podcast. I really enjoy it. They didn't ask me to put this in the ad. I just wanted to because I've really enjoyed their podcast. Super informational. If you're looking to learn more about cover crops for your farm and how they can apply for your specific situation, you're going to want to check it out. It's called Under the Covers. Again, that's iowacovercrop.com. Welcome back to the Prairie Farm Podcast, Coffee Time Wednesday. I'm your favorite host, Nicholas Lirio, with your favorite co-host, Ken Boucher.
Hey.
Favorite co-host to the co-host, Riley Rosendahl.
Howdy, howdy.
And your favorite co-host to the co-host of the co-host, Judd McCollum.
I'm here.
Happy freaking birthday, Judd.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm expecting that.
Yeah, you
guys-
got a couple Chicago dogs or so. Where'd you go for those?
There was a place in Peoria, Illinois, close to where I'm from, and
Where it's pronounced correctly.
yeah, I started calling it the way you guys call it, and people are totally confused. And I love it. But
As it should be.
German name place in the Metro Center, pretty good. I think it's a chain, easy to find on Google. Check it out. 5 stars.
Wow.
Awesome.
What is a Chicago dog?
I love Chicago dogs.
Chicago dog. You got that neon green relish. You've got mustard. You've got sport peppers. You got pickles. What am I forgetting?
I think there's onions and tomatoes.
I think there's definitely tomato and onions. Yep, but no ketchup.
And then
never
celery
ketchup.
salt, right?
Never
Celery salt.
ketchup.
Ketchup is not allowed on a Chicago dog. If you put it on there, it's something completely different.
Wow.
They're amazing.
They are.
That is, sounds healthy.
You would say that.
Well, it's got a lot of
Where's the
vegetation on there.
soundboard with Nicholas's little virtue signaling sound?
No, look,
On my birthday, I have organic yogurt.
That's not true. I eat as unhealthy as
My
any
wife
other
and I
human
go
being.
and get kefir infusions.
It sounds like you better not plan on anything for the rest of the day. Kind of a
Actually, it
meal.
wasn't that bad.
Really?
Yeah, even for me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they looked really good. I was kind of jealous. And I was thinking, you know what? My birthday's not too far away. Chicago dogs sound pretty good.
The good news is they're easily gotten. They're usually pretty good.
You guys want to know what I asked for my birthday last year?
What?
Because my whole family was gone. This is a 1960s, like, at least I assume it is, like a Betty Crocker type thing. That not that you find in the Betty Crocker cookbook, but that you find in like the back of a package of some NASA-made food product. It's called Weenie Lattes. It's an enchilada meets a hot dog. And my wife is completely disturbed by the suggestion of eating such a thing. But I ate them at my grandparents' house when I was a kid, and I still like Weenie Lattes. And my only family around for my birthday last year was my grandparents. So I requested Weenie Lattes for my birthday meal.
I feel bad for your grandparents.
I don't know how to feel about this.
Subtle joke from Riley.
Being forced to partake in Weenie Lattes. For Ken's birthday.
That's a word I've never said in my life. Weenie Lattes.
I know, it's just fun to ask for.
You know
First
what
time
would
right
maybe
there.
be good? Weenie lattes. Put hot dogs in a latte.
Just
Stop.
Okay, all right. We
Great
have,
enchiladas, terrible in coffee.
we have a real topic that I'm suspicious is going to take 4.5 hours today.
it'd be okay if it did.
Yeah,
We'll
but
get
we're all
thousands
together.
of
All
reels.
4 of us are together in close quarters for the first time in many, many months.
Yeah, close enough that I
Now
can
let's
smell
have some
everyone.
fun, Nicholas.
Oh, man.
All right, lock it up.
Here we go. So, here is our qualifications before we answer these FAQs. And by the way, we got these FAQs from our email, and then there was a few that I added that I know I've just answered so many times.
I did 3 times on the way here today.
Oh my goodness. So Judd and I have been ones to answer said phone for Hoxie Native Seeds, and said phone rings, and it is either someone calling about our Google listing and trying to spam us, or to someone to ask us about one of these questions. Yeah. And yes, we love answering these questions. We love connecting with people. I honestly, like, that's where I feel like I make the most difference in the world, is like I'm helping people put a healthier prairie on the ground. So I think I do other things, but those seem to not matter as much as that one. But so these questions, we answer them a lot. Everybody at this table has planted prairie. Everybody at this table has hand harvested prairie. Everybody at this table has harvested prairie. Everybody at this table has weeded prairie. Everybody at this table has taken pictures in a prairie. And everybody at this table has had to chase cows off of grazing on a prairie. Yeah. So,
well, I would even say 2 people at this table have experience in intentionally grazing prairie, and one of which has done it for many years with an actual prairie grazer, which is bison. So
yeah. And everybody at this table has sprayed, to some degree to help prairie. Everybody at this table has traveled somewhere to look at a prairie. We've done a lot with prairie.
Hunted prairies.
Hunted prairies. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Riley, you've definitely. That'd be all of us. Yeah, we've all hunted prairies. Yeah. I mean, if you define what I did with Travis last year as hunting, then sure.
He walked prairie with a gun in his hand.
I've only rattled for deer in tall grass.
What do they call it? A negligent discharge? Yeah. Negligently discharging on a prairie. That was no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, we got to clear that up.
I was so nervous to not do it. And you know what?
Yeah, he was very safe.
Travis was super, super aware. Anytime there was something that I could have shot at that was like kind of in a wrong direction, he was immediate. Don't shoot! And you heard it. It was crazy how quick and aware he was.
His entire reputation is staked on his ability to sniff that sort of thing out.
All
of it.
That's true.
Everything.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's one accident away from.
He's the best of the best.
Oh, even pointing a gun in the wrong direction on camera. If somebody gets wind of that, it's pretty much over. Like, it's a serious thing to pick your hunting partners, and for him to be in a position where he just goes out and hunts with different people that he may or may not have vetted in the field. It's a serious deal. It's taking your life in your hands.
You got to keep your eye on people.
Yeah. You know what we should do the next time we have Travis and or Tim on the podcast?
Yeah.
Is we should ask about the times when they turned people down. What was it that they turned down a hunting trip?
Or what ended a hunt pretty fast, because I'm sure that's happened.
Well, yeah. I mean, Travis, when he came in, he told us a couple of horror stories right away, which I think he probably does on purpose to scare us into like, hey, this is a big deal. And so, so we've been around prairies. We've done a lot of these. We're just going to go through these FAQs. And if we go through them quickly, great. And if they take forever, that's all right. The nuance matters on these. But for us, we answer these questions all the time, so we can kind of get used to it. But for the people listening, and for future people listening, we want to actually have high quality information out there. Now, small disclaimer. We have a right to change our mind. We have been changing our mind about how to deal with prairies for the last 150 years. And so if in 2 years we have a different method or decide to change what we're going to do with it, that's great. And there's a lot of nuance. There is almost never a black and white, this is absolutely how you have to do it. Even on the forum, which got really great nuanced questions have been coming up on the forum. That's what I like to see. Those are fun, the nuanced questions, but it's often not like a yes or no, this or that, plant this date, or if it's too late, don't plant. It's almost never. It's hard to tell with the prairie because
experts don't deal in absolutes.
Man, yeah, that's true. All right, question 1: how long does it take for prairie planting to become established? Ken,
do we got a buzzer?
What do you got?
Well, I mean, I would say that maximum establishment could be up to a decade to see, like, I think it's Compass Plant, where some of their seeds can just lay dormant for up to 10 years. And even then, that's just for it to germ. It's tiny little sprout that year. It's nowhere near the majestic, giant, towering plant that we know it to be in the prairie. So I just think that the key thing to associate with this first question is patience. And something I used to say on the podcast in the early days is Prairie is a rebuke to us living in what we know, especially as the tall grass prairie region. Obviously, you go out to the western states and some of the mixed grass prairies and short grass prairies, there's still a lot of those intact, but especially in the tall grass prairie, we've converted that to farmland mostly. And it's kind of like when you're a strapping young buck and you meet the girl who you think is the right one, you better not mess it up, right? Because she won't be won back, and she won't be won back easily, right? That's why they're a high quality person, and I kind of view Prairie as the same way. It's like we turned we stood up the Prairie one too many times, right? We proved ourselves unworthy of its splendor and all of the services it provided to this ecosystem, and they took millennia to form into the diverse networks that they were. And so getting it back is not going to be easy. And it's not a bag of throw and grow. It's not a bag of turf builder mixed in with fertilizer and put the sprinkler on it and there you go. It's just not that. And so patience is key. For your average prairie, though, where you got maybe, say, 10 species that you could recognize in your prairie, you could probably see that if you've done your prep, which I'm sure is one of the questions on here. It's number 2. If you've done your prep work correctly, I think within that second year, you'll be able to start to recognize, if you know what you're looking for, maybe 10 different species in your prairie, which I think feels like a huge win for people. I know it has for me. And if you continue to do your maintenance, you should only expect to see more by year 3 and onward. So
so Lance Rorda, who's been on the podcast, and we were talking to him the other day, Riley and I were, he was hanging out with us, and he planted his first prairie from us in I'm pretty sure it was 18.
Wow.
2018. This year, he had 2 new species come up.
Amazing.
Right? 2026, so it's 8 years later.
Did you say what they were?
Columbine and compass plant.
Oh, nice. Oh, man. Those are some nice ones to get.
To
get.
Well, I kind of wonder.
I'd be so excited to see Columbine and compass plant.
Well, so guess what he did for the very first time last year? He burned in the fall. Mm-hmm. So I don't, how much of it is like the yearly thing, because Columbine likes shade. So maybe the prairie had to be mature enough to give it shade. I don't know. But he manages it really well. And he had 2 new species come up 8 years later.
That's amazing. That's a great testimony there. I like that.
So the rule of thumb, year 1, it sleeps. Judd and I get a lot of phone calls. You sold me sand. There's nothing coming up. Yep. What do I do? A lot of phone
calls. I want to add something after you're done with that. Keep going.
Year 1, it sleeps. Year 2, it creeps. Like Kent said, you'll see 10 or so species, some of those easier to grow species. You'll see bergamot, a couple asters, purple prairie clover, most of the grasses.
A lot of the biennials.
Yep. But it'll look a little thin, especially at the beginning of the year before the biomass is up and the grasses are up. Mm-hmm. But year 3, it leaps. And that's kind of where the saying usually stops, because it'll look way better year 3. A lot more flowers will show up year 3. Mm-hmm. But it continues to sprint faster and faster after that year 3. I mean, for several years, you will be like, wow, I've never seen this one before. Yeah. Like blazing stars come up year 4, 5, 6. Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, compass plant comes up way later. Mm-hmm. If you have any shot at all at a hemiparasite, they're not coming in till the sedges are mature for the most part. And those sedges being mature doesn't happen till year, 4, 5, 6 at least. And so a lot going on there. So year 1, it sleeps. Year 2, it creeps. Year 3, it leaps, and then it will continue to run past that. What else you got, Kent?
Well, I just wanted to remind people of our native annuals that nobody likes because they're not pretty. And things like lamb's quarter, pigweed, Pennsylvania smartweed, mare's tail is a big one. None of those are like, man, that's a beautiful plant out there, but a lot of them are native to this region. Now they can behave in an invasive way, and that's where mowing is important. But when you look out there in that sleep phase that Nicholas is talking about, and when you are tempted to say, you sold me sand, because you're seeing a lot of those species that you already know to be weeds, right? Because the agricultural and gardening world treats them that way. But I really am evolving in how I view those things. I kind of think of the phrase God's cover crop. They're part of healing a disturbed site. And I actually have a prairie plot in my yard that I was just in last night. And I kind of let I cut down on the mowing a little bit.
Yeah.
And kind of let those native annuals take their place. And it was loaded with pigweed last year. And pigweed, I want you to know, if you let it go, it turns into a tree. Like it's a woody, hard, like could make a nice little fire out of those things.
Oh yeah.
And this year, I don't know that I've even seen a single pigweed in that prairie.
That's cool.
I've seen some lamb's quarter and a little bit of mare's tail, but so I guess what I'm saying is don't panic, don't view it as nothing is happening, because it's just part of the progression of, there were disturbed prairie sites and long before humans were here, bison wallows,
they
elk
were
wallows,
all disturbed prairie sites.
a big
at one time
washout or
another,
something from a 10-inch rain event. You know, they're
4,000 bison sweeping through and trampling it bad.
Right. Yep. And those native annuals are a part of that, turning that disturbed soil back in, progressing it back into prairie cover. So,
and Nicholas, didn't you just get some great information about foxtail?
Oh, man. I don't know how people are going to
love hearing stuff like that. It's reassuring.
So, Chad Gravy told me,
not
in confidence, just in passing, that if he could plant foxtail as a cover crop for every single prairie, he would.
Really?
Yeah. And it's considered an invasive in a bunch of different places.
It is. Yeah. It's considered a noxious weed.
It's
just a noxious stringy weed. And weak. It's perfect.
But man, the pheasants love it. And it doesn't hold up to big blue stem and Indian grass. Like there's a lot of it in our Indian grass field in one corner where the other Indian grass won't grow. Right. Yeah. So it's either that or nothing. And which I think is very interesting. But we should move on to number 2.
Oh, I wanted to add one more thing to that. Yeah. Consider, if you have a small enough area, not if you're doing like a big, many acres prairie, but like if you got a little backyard prairie, consider buying a few plugs too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And kind of, for the showy stuff that you really want, give it that little boost for, what you're doing there is you're buying time. And I've done that with my own prairie as well.
Yeah. Not so much buying time with your planting or the efficacy of the establishment, but maybe with your significant other
or your HOA
or your HOA.
Well, yeah, but you are also building or buying time for some of those higher conservation value species to be present in your prairie.
It speeds that up quite a bit.
Yeah. That is true. All right, number 2. How do I prepare the site for planting? We'll start this by handing it off to Judd. Judd, what do you got?
Boom. Biggest enemy to your planting is non-native cool season pasture and turf-forming grasses. You want to get rid of those because those are going to outcompete everything. You will have bought a bag of sand if you don't control those. So what I tell people is, one of the first questions I ask is, have you done anything to take care of those? And if they want to buy seed from me today, it shocks many people to hear that I'm not real excited about selling them anything until I hear that they've got a couple of sprayings on that, because the seed's hard to grow. The seed's hard to source. Seed's hard to clean. Seed's not that easy to sell, so it comes dear. And we want to see it go into a place where it's going to make it. It's going to establish. So that's my first question every time. And then I'll have people say, well, I've done a pretty good job with my grasses. I'm seeing a lot of weeds. Do I need to go back in there and respray those? And my typical answer with that is, unless you're seeing like a super heavy, dense stand of something in particular, I typically don't worry about that at all. We're going to prescribe a mowing regimen with a little card that Riley provides in your seed bags that tells you to mow on a typical hay schedule, Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day, to control that annual weed pressure the first couple of years. The first year, you're going to mow it 3 times. The second year, you're going to mow it twice, with the Labor Day mowing being as needed if you're still seeing some annual weed pressure. But by year 3, it's going to be mature and established enough to take care of itself.
I would also add for the sprayings that you definitely need to spray it twice if you've got
for sure
cool season grasses.
And at different times of the year if possible.
Yes, and what we mean by twice, we don't mean spray in April 12 and then spray again May 1st. Yep. We mean spray in April and then spray again in September 20th.
Yeah.
So some of them are going to survive, or some of the seed bank is going to come up of those same grasses that have been growing there and dropping their seeds for 10 years. And what you're doing, they're basically last ditch effort coming up. So if you hit them again with second time, that's really great. If you have a yard grass, if you're in a small area in your yard, you're going to hit your cool season grasses, and then you need to do a warm season spraying because you've got that crabgrass and those other kind of invasive grass species that still create kind of a sod cover. They smother the ground. And you need to do a cool season, a warm season, and then a warm season. Or let's say you're starting in the fall, you spray in the fall, you spray again in the spring, you spray again in the summer, or maybe in June. You could still get planting in there in June. My dad always told people, make your last spraying, plan it out so your last spraying's in the fall. You can plant right after that so that you don't have this dead bare spot throughout the whole summer and fall that year. I understand that if it's a small area in your yard, not the end of the world. A lot of people are against spraying. And so this is where tarping comes in, and Ken actually did this.
Yeah, so I'm actually planning to put a video together on just the results of it. And I would add this too before we talk about tarping is for your first application, it's probably okay to use something like a 2,4-D mixed in with your glyphosate which has a holdover, right? It has a residual action that'll stay in the soil unless you receive just an obscene amount of rain or you do some tillage. And do not use that for your second spraying because some of those will hold up to 90 days in the soil or longer. And in fact, when you read the planting interval on a lot of herbicides that have a pre-emergent nature to them, it'll tell you can't plant corn or beans here for 18 months. And so, I mean, quite a holdover, right? And so, something like 2,4-D though, you could probably do for your first application just to help you get a real burn down on, because there are some broadleafs especially that are glyphosate, or most people call it Roundup, but glyphosate resistant. So you just got to be careful with that. When it comes to tarping, first of all, you need to understand you're not going to get everything. And Laura Walter has talked on this podcast before that if you use like clear tarp, which is kind of easier to come by, most hardware stores have that because people use it for everything from broken car windows to winterizing a screened-in porch or their windows through the winter or whatever. So with that, she has said that the environment created by having this magnifying glass put on the ground favors some warm season plants. I think crabgrass responds well to it actually. And I had some crabgrass problems in my prairie from
Did you use black tarp or clear tarp?
I used black silage tarp for mine. That stuff is expensive. And it sucks. And I cannot stress that to you enough, how much it sucks to manage that tarp. Because you got to keep it on the ground a long time. And if you're like in a place like Iowa where you get a ton of wind, you got to hold that giant boat sail down on the ground. And not everybody has access to a mountain,
20 tires
to a mountain of old T-posts from the 1920s and old farm tires and boat tires and car tires like I do, old pallets.
Anything really random laying around the property that's got any weight to it ends up on top of it.
Everything that you could think of on that thing to hold it down, and the wind would still pull it, and it would. So it's hard, and it's also hard to get a clean edge, right? Because of that. So it's very hard to manage. It does favor some species just because it's a new environment. And so does chemical. Things like yellow nut sedge can shrug off not heavy enough dose of Roundup, right? But it does create that. And then I also noticed I got a big Dutch white clover response, and a big dandelion response, and a big wild lettuce response to the tarping that I don't usually see as much in a chemically prepared prairie site. So it is part of it, and you got to rotate it, right? You have to, keep it on there for, I think my rule I went by was 6 to 8 weeks, just to really make sure it baked everything there. And then I would move it over to another side where I would kill that off. And then by then that other side was getting its next season of seed bank coming back for weeds. Then I'd tarp it off again and move it back. I think I did that I did at least 3 killings on both sides. So it took like 2 years, 2 growing seasons of prep basically before I could plant. So it is a very valid way to do it. I've kept that prairie completely chemical free. It's about a 5,000 square foot prairie, and I'm planning to do that for now until I'm done coaching everybody up on it. And then I'm going to go in there with some targeted chemical application to deal with some of those long-standing problems. But I wanted to prove that it could be done, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And just because it's not a perfectly pretty prairie it still has tons of ecological.
What do you mean? It's a beautiful prairie.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. It looks really great. Yeah, the bergamot's insane right now.
Yeah, it's like basically a bergamot production.
My wife's about to hear about this for the first time, but I'm planning on renting a sod cutter to take out a section of our yard. I'm going to cut that, flip it over, and then basically use that as some compost, put some cardboard on top of it, and just get it nice and soppy, and then take it off, let it dry, and interseed into it.
I would say this. You saying cover crop or covering it. I did cover crop with oats in there once, and I would not do that again. And the reason for that is, yes, cover crops hold down weeds, but the whole point of your preparation is to let those weeds express themselves so that you can kill them, and then they're done with. And so I think that when I cover cropped with oats, I think it delayed
the weed response,
a weed problem that I was going to have to face anyways.
Yeah.
There's no silver bullets. Dan Allen said that once at a Prairie conference. He's like, there are no silver bullets in this industry.
He was specifically talking about cleaning at the time?
Right, but it applies to everything.
Yeah.
And there's trade-offs for everything. And so, we know as a good, educated, regenerative, farm-sensitive person, bare dirt's the enemy to a carbon problem, right? We lose carbon to the atmosphere, to runoff, to all the other means, and carbon is what grows plants. And so we try not to have bare soil, but it is part of the process for preparation, whether it be using a sod cutter like Judd's talking about, or doing some heavy tillage for that first killing, key being that first killing, whatever, you can't have it all.
It may sound weird, but I actually ask my friends about their finances, but not only about how their finances are, but specifically things like, how much money do you have in your bank account? Are you saving for your kids' future? Do you have a retirement plan that's in line? And the reason I ask these questions is because I know that finances put more stress on most people than anything else. And one of the biggest alleviators of stress from finances in my wife and I's life was when we switched to McKay Insurance. Now, we did this way before they were a sponsor of the podcast, but once we did it, we got our life insurance lined up, we got our health insurance for a much better deal, and we were able to bundle everything that we had, and we saved a bunch of money. We're actually able to connect with the people who are giving us our insurance and helping us do our financial planning. I highly recommend McKay Insurance. That's McKayInsagency.com. All right. Well, question number 3. I'm going to answer this real quick and then we'll move on. Is tilling or breaking up the soil recommended before planting? 2 scenarios here. 1, we have not done this, but I have heard of it where someone did not a disking, not like a chiseling, a true plow tilling, turning over the soil.
Moldboard plow.
Yep, they did that twice, and that really did. And they had a pasture grass, and it eliminated the pasture grass. So it was a good way to go. Obviously, there are cons to doing that. So that's one scenario where it can work. as a replacement instead of spraying. I don't recommend it. I don't think it's the better way to go, but I've seen it done and it went well. Now, the second one where people are saying like, hey, should we till up the bed? Should we soften it up before we plant? No, you should not do that. Yeah. And we plant on top of the ground and we broadcast, and then a harrow or you could have a cultipacker. Do not till up the ground, loosen it up. Don't do like a light disking and then plant and then cultipack. Don't do that.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah,
Don't do that.
Now, if you did that,
that's being a driver, not an operator. Okay, I'll just say it right now.
If you
think you know what you're doing, but you don't know what you're doing when you do that.
If you do that, stuff will show up. You will greatly hinder the diversity that shows up. You'll probably get a little bit of switchgrass, big blue, the grass will come up. Black-eyed Susan, you can plant it on a cement basketball court, and it would show up. But like, and you would feel fine, year 2 or 3. But any blazing star you put in there, any aster you put in there, forget about it. Those seeds are quantity over quality, so they dissolve in the dirt a lot faster. They're not gonna hold up again. They're not gonna work their way to the surface. So do not do that. In terms of plowing or prepping, you can do it, but you need to pack it back down before you plant. And I don't recommend it because you're gonna work up a lot of those weeds. Now, if that's your goal, you want to work up the weeds to spray it, you can do that. But I mean, you're gonna fight. It's like fighting dishes. You're fighting a losing battle if you're gonna fight the seed bank.
There's trillions. Trillions of seeds in there. I was just reading in a weed management book I have here that there's like velvet leaf, for instance, survives many decades in the soil column.
Oh,
and I would just add this: there is a time and place for tillage. I am establishing a grass field at my family farm right now, and Carol looked at it with me and he goes, "I can't. That really needs to be beaned for a few years." And I wish I would have done that now. I wish I would have worked with the farmer who's renting the rest of the farm ground around there and said, "Hey, could you just spray this and bean it for a couple years for me?" And then I would have had a much easier job planning. Instead, I went with the spray and mow regimen, and it's worked okay. But I think I just did my 4th application. And I'm still not confident that it was enough. And the other thing that tillage helps with is ground gets badger holes and uneven spots,
ant hills,
bad trees, and tillage can help compensate for a lot of that. And you don't need to use the moldboard plow. You could use a chisel. You could do some heavy disking several different directions, or if you got a box tiller, we have a friend here who really loves the Sidewinder box tillers, and if you had something like that. But I would just say that cannot be your weed killing action right before pre-plant. No. It's got to be the first. You need to have at least one more chemical application after that because of what you just said, Nicholas. You're working all those new weeds back up to the surface. In my way, the way I look at it, whenever you till ground, you're resetting. You're going back to step 1. So really 2 applications could be needed to get rid of the cool season response plus the warm season response. And let's be honest, when you're doing your first tillage, it's probably going to be in the cool season time of the year. So you haven't even killed your cool season weeds yet, which are far more problematic than your warm season weeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've all gone over to a friend or a family member's place probably where a foundation was getting dug, a deep holes in the ground for some reason. It could be for any reason. And there's a pile of dirt there that hasn't been knocked down yet. Yeah. And what's growing out of it?
Velvet leaf,
Jimson weed, amaranths.
Yeah.
That came from 10 feet down, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
My grandpa was the first one to point that out to me. He goes, "You ever notice that whenever they dig a hole, there's always velvet leaf?" And I just wondered to myself, how long has that? Because it's not from America. I believe velvet leaf is from China.
Longer than Tordon.
So
I have an uncle who had a field. It was red. It was clover, and then it was corn and bean, and then I think they let it sit fallow for a year, and the red clover came back. Any guesses as to when the last time red clover was on that field?
say maybe the 60s or 70s.
The 70s.
Wow.
That red clover seed sat in there from the 70s. Now clover is it's a legume. It's a hard seed.
Very hard seed.
Yeah, but still, and it wasn't like there's a few red. It was like a red. A weak red clover field, but it looked like a red.
And that's what I've been fighting. One of the things I've been fighting really hard in that pasture that I've converted. It was all just a hay pasture and a horse pasture for years.
Yeah,
and no native plants left in it.
Yeah,
other than the native annuals.
Yeah. All right, guys. Number 4. When is the best time of year to sow native prairie seeds? Riley, you've been a little quiet. You want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of frost seeding. If you want to go back and listen, there's a really great podcast with Justin Meissen from the Tallgrass Prairie Center, kind of outlining when the best months. That was actually my favorite part of the podcast. There's a segment you guys did on month by month when the best time to plant was, and the resounding answer was frost seeding, either November, December, where you're going to get guaranteed moisture. Can you plant in the spring? Yes. Do we plant in the spring? Yes. But your margin for nature and Mother Nature and life to happen, I think, is just a little bit higher. Your chances of things going wrong in the spring are higher than the fall. Just when it comes down to moisture, lack of moisture, especially once you get into June, and then
crazy runoff.
Yeah. You're in thunderstorm season, and you're in potential drought.
Which could happen to your frost seeding too.
Yeah,
If you had a really heavy early.
But the margin's just higher, right? Because that frost seeding, it sets it in.
Yeah,
and you benefit from that snowpack too that sat on top of it. There's a lot of moisture still in the soil.
It's setting it perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I like to tell people too. Is when you're doing frost seeding, one of the questions I've always had was, aren't you worried about birds and other pests and stuff taking your seed away while you're waiting for those seedlings to come up, And my answer to that is, if you plant before a light snow, I'm sure there's, mice and things wandering around, but, birds aren't going to go dig through the snow to get to your little blue stem seed.
I've seen a few prairie plantings fail, and they fail for, as long as it's not an operator being an idiot, they fail for 2 reasons. You plant a little too late, and then it's a little drier than it usually is. And what happens is some of those warm season grass actually germinate, and then they don't get any moisture. So if it's a super dry year and you plant them out there, they just won't germinate till the next year. But if they germinate, then they shrivel up. So that's one. And the other one is planting, and then there's a lot more cool season grass left in there than you thought. Maybe you got a bad application out of 2, or, maybe you only did 1 roundup application. Yeah, that would be fine.
I would, a lot of times people like to plant with oats, and I think that works great when you do what Riley's saying, do a dormant seeding, and you're going to have plenty of moisture at the time of germination for both the oats and your prairie. But you get into June, I would not plant with oats because
I don't even know if the oats would come up, second half of June.
It's getting late.
Yeah, it's getting late for that, but you might get some germination, and or even like in May or late April. I would caution people about planting with oats just because you are introducing a competitive something that's competing for a limited resource that you have no control over.
Yeah.
And that is moisture, and something that is an annual crop and will fill in thickly in that first year. So I'd caution people on that. And then also, with the dormant seeding is the stratification aspect of it. A lot of the flowers need that time of stratification. So when you plant in this time of year, you are favoring the grasses, because most grasses, some do, but most grasses do not require a period of cold stratification. And if that seed has been stored in an area that's not getting below freezing temperatures to agitate that seed to break its dormancy, then you're handing off the advantage to the grasses, and the grasses will dominate your prairie, because that is a very common problem with a prairie reconstruction is it's grass dominated.
I feel like it's a good time to point out to the customers that it might have changed recently with the addition of some mini splits in Riley's area, but for the most part, all of our seed is naturally stratified, cold stratified.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I don't even know how much of the stratification matters if it doesn't get moisture. I think I don't fully understand the science of stratification. I forgive me on that one, but I'm going to move on to number 5 and 6. We're going to put those. What about mowing on the first year? And then question 6, what about mowing on the second year? I'm going to take a stab at it, and then I want to hear what you guys have to say as well. I just emailed Kevin Griggs, truly a prairie expert. I mean, he's stepped foot on a lot of prairies. He's established a lot of prairies. He's managed a lot of prairies, talking thousands and thousands of acres. And he said, I would not mow under 10 inches when I mow. Totally understand. But now we had a conversation with a native
Which is
pasture.
very limiting for people with equipment.
Yes. Yep. Because you basically have to have some sort of disc mower.
Or bush hog. Yeah.
Bush hog, yeah. Well, John Judson, also a prairie expert, says that he tells people the first year and all the way through the second summer, he says if you're going for a pollinator flower patch, when it hits your knees, mow it down to your ankles. Right? Your ankles. That is way lower
John's
than 10 inches.
ankles are 10 inches above his feet. I'm just kidding.
Well, and then
Never coming on the podcast.
we had a question about this
I'm just kidding,
on
John.
the forum. Just had a question about it. And so I was doing some digging on it. So I text our neighbor who has a beautiful backyard prairie patch that he planted from us. And I mean, it looks really good. You'll see photos from it later.
Actually, Nick and I planted it for him.
Yeah, we did.
And we were real
While
nervous.
he watched.
Yeah.
and yeah, we were nervous. First couple of years, it didn't look
And
very
it was
good.
it was a summer planting too.
Yeah, it was late. It was into June. And I asked him, hey, you were supposed to mow that. I just texted him this. You're supposed to mow that. Did you mow it with a riding lawnmower? And he said, yes, he did. First 2 years, he mowed it with a riding lawnmower. So, and it looks great. So again, there is no black and white. Kevin Griggs says 10 inches. John Judson says every time it hits your knees, hit it down. What I tell people, you at least should mow twice the first summer.
I'm pretty sure Patrick Kaiser said 8 inches for he considered that kind of the growth zone
because he wants the leaves to be there as the solar panels. If you cut it too short. Now the only other thing I would add is Dad would always say, this is what he would tell people: 2, maybe 3 mowings the first summer, and the third one needs to be about the state fair time in Iowa. The reason being is because you get that amaranth, and he wants that. That's one that you want to kind of keep down. And then the second year, 1, maybe 2 mowings, and your last one should be at the 4th of July, and then leave it be. That is kind of a bare minimum mowing regimen. But I mean, if you're every time it hits your knees mowing down your ankle, I mean, you can mow that 4 or 5 times, if you're keeping into that. So just so you know, there is like a gradient of different mowing styles. There's no one perfect way to do it that I'm aware of. Riley, you ever mess with the mowing on the prairies?
Well, it just depends. It depends on what equipment you have. It depends on what time you have. I'm always in favor. Obviously, like Judd said, it depends on your goals. Like you said, there's nothing absolute, but I prefer 8 inches if we can. I know most commercial riding lawnmowers, the top setting is 5 inches.
Yeah.
So will it completely ruin your planting if you mow it at 5 inches? No.
How high would you let your bison graze down to? Obviously, this isn't a brand new prairie. You're not grazing,
you don't want. I mean, you want at least 10 inches. I've always heard on native grasses you want to, and this is actually from Patrick Kaiser. When it gets up to 20 inches, you want to graze it down to basically 10.
Okay.
Because below 10 inches, you're damaging your productivity, and you're going to later in the season. You're losing that potential.
Yeah.
Did you? I mean, I don't. Is grazing in here later?
No, we don't have.
So let's talk on this for just a minute. I think. Yeah. Like, what kind of response did you notice when on a more heavily grazed section of prairie? Did it favor some things? Did you ever make a mistake that you're like, I should have had them out a week ago?
Well, when you're grazing. Anything, if you're moving animals, you're going to have train wrecks. Animals go where animals want to go, and
you can't just make a bison do what you want.
No, you can't just twist their arm.
Shock collar.
You can exclude.
Yeah, what do you think of those e-collars on a bison, right?
I doubt their efficacy, I would say. I've seen calves that are 200 pounds run through 5 strands of electrified wire.
Oh my goodness.
So it's not, it's maybe it works for some people. I'm sure somebody's going to comment and say, oh, it's the best thing since sliced bread. Not my experience. But when you have an animal in an area, the best tool you have is being able to move them broadly. If an animal is somewhere for too long, they're going to favor, just like you have a favorite spot in your house that gets dirty, you know, you're going to have spots that end up being washouts or overgrazed or undergrazed, depending on your species. You know, I'd notice native plants get grazed before, reed canary. Reed canary only gets grazed when it's palatable. There's a million different variables. There's a million different grazers who will tell you different stuff on it. But
well, before we wrap this one up, Kent, you got a thing about mowing?
Yeah, it's kind of a theory that I'm trying to put my money where my mouth is a little bit. So with back to that backyard prairie that I established with the tarp, I let it go, and so I kind of seeded it really in 2 parts. I seeded the first part was a summer seeding, and then there was I think I just bought some more seed or got a hold of some more seed, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to throw some of these species into, and I did those as like a dormant seeding. And so after that first seeding, I mowed really aggressively the first year with a riding lawnmower because crabgrass was such a problem, and I was just really stressed about that crabgrass going to seed and remaining a problem for me. So I mowed that aggressively, but then after I seeded that following fall and winter time frame, I think I maybe only mowed once. The next spring, and it was pretty early on, and again with a riding lawnmower, and then I just kind of let it go because it was kind of along the time frame. Riley and I went and interviewed why can't I think of
Kelly
his name?
Kincher?
Yeah, Kelly Kincher, down at University of Kansas. I hate how they say that. Why can't it just be Kansas University? But anyways, University of Kansas, and he was talking about edible native plants, and he was like, well, a lot of the annual weeds are edible native plants. And I was like, pigweed's native? Yeah. Lamb's quarter? Yeah. I felt kind of ashamed that I didn't know this, right? You
don't think about it.
And I did know that Pennsylvania smartweed was, and I did know that mare's tail was.
And Reed's Canary, that's why you've been spreading the Reed's Canary grass.
I mean, just the more of that we can have. No, Reed's Canary is, well, yes, there is some native Reed's Canary, or Reed Canary. You always say Reed's Canary.
I don't know why I do that. I think it is Reed Canary.
Reed Canary. Now you're messing me up.
Those niche all over.
Ignorance. But I was like, those are native. So they have a role. Right?
Yeah.
If they belong here, they have a role. And the prairie management world tells you their role is to die, is to get rid of them because they're ugly. You don't want them. They produce a lot of weed seed. And it's like, you know what? Let's see what happens if we just let them go. And that's what I did last year. Because we interviewed Kelly pretty early on, like it was like late May. It was late May. You and your wife were in the hospital.
Yeah, I remember that.
3 weeks straight. And you were actually supposed to go on that interview with me, but you were in the hospital, so Riley had to ride along. And so from that point on, I quit mowing, and I had tons of lamb's quarter, and I had tons of pigweed. I did not have a lot of smartweed, but I did have quite a bit of mare's tail. We'll just trust the process. And this year, there's almost no pigweed. In fact, I don't even know that I've seen a pigweed. I have seen some lamb's quarter. I have seen a little bit of mare's tail. But most of the vast majority of plants in there are native plants. And I kind of think, I do think that mowing helps with diversity. I'm a little concerned that I have so much wild berg because it's so bushy and it lives a long time. I have a crap ton of Virginia wild rye as well. Again, I let that go. I actually let that go to seed. It went to seed in its first year.
Wow.
And so I do have a lot of that, and I am concerned that that's crowding my understory from some of my other forbs that are coming along. But so I think that if I had maybe thrown a mow in there in the middle of the summer or something, maybe I would have helped some of those. But I do think that there is an obsession with managing those annual native weed species that forces us to mow more often than may actually be necessary. That's on a very small amount of data and off of a lot of instinct, just as far as perceiving the ecosystem as this functioning thing and these annual weeds, native weeds, having a role within that ecosystem. But yeah, that's kind of my new way of looking at mowing. And I think what maybe the takeaway could be of that is, well, I'm going to do Kent's way, or am I going to do John Judson's way? That's not the takeaway. I think the takeaway is, my guy was supposed to come out here and mow for me, and he didn't. He only got it mowed once this year. NBD, man, you're gonna have a nice prairie. And it's not the thing that. And honestly, I'm kind of suspecting that fire may not be quite the. This is me spitballing here, but I'm kind of suspecting that fire may not be quite the do or die thing for a prairie either.
Yeah. Put a pin in it because we're coming up to fire.
Well, after learning about Keith Horn burning when everyone says you shouldn't burn, and having the absolute best tall grass prairie, remnant prairie left in America.
While we're spitballing here, I think mowing also, I mean, it serves a purpose in watching out for shade, but at the same time, I think half the reason we mow is peer pressure.
Yeah. Annuals don't make friends.
No. And it turns into this thing where people feel pressure. Oh, do my neighbors think that I'm just growing this weed patch?
Yeah.
Can I throw one more thing in there?
Sure.
Mowing will not kill weeds. Don't think a lot of people. I need to get out there and mow them Canadians. That's fine. I use mowing to control Canadians because I can't get to them with the proper herbicide, which comes up later in this conversation, or mowing brome right when it's going to seed or when it's pollinating is really the best time. Can control those things, but it will not rid you of those things. And so if you see a patch of brome like I was dealing with in my prairie last night that just showed up this year, or a patch of quackgrass or something, mowing can be a way to put the brakes on it, but it does not remove it.
Yeah.
And
it's mostly about sun. It is mostly about getting sun to your natives, which are very short and tiny seedlings. Yeah. That's mostly what mowing is. It's not going to fix your.
But if you have an invasive problem like that, you got to go in and get it out. Either with herbicide or with a hoe and a shovel.
Yeah, mechanically with the old back muscles.
Yep.
All right, number 7, Judd, take a stab at it. Should I water and or fertilize my newly planted prairie?
From my understanding, if you have a backyard prairie,
he just goes and lists this new company's got this secret deal with. You buy the whatever Turf Builder Mix Pro.
If you can water your backyard prairie, it'll extend your planting season just a little bit. But don't go crazy with it. And the answer to whether or not you should fertilize your prairie is don't, unless you've incorporated organic matter into the soil pretty deeply. It's just going to draw the root structure up to the surface and then negate those species' inherent drought tolerance.
Who showed us? Someone showed me a picture. I cannot.
And now Nicholas is just going to prove me wrong.
No. Someone showed me a picture of a root system of some milkweed. I think. Yeah, it was butterfly milkweed. So that's Asclepias tuberosa because it's very tuberous root. And so the point is, it has a thick root that has a lot of matter to it. It's not fibrous and spreading out like big blue stem or something. So, and they fertilized on top in between the rows, and the root was like a flat,
just
half inch. Yeah, but it was like a sheet of paper. Instead of digging a root down, it was not what the plant needed at all. It made for incredible nutrient intake and incredible plants that first year or two. and then they couldn't withstand
drought.
they couldn't withstand the drought. And I cannot remember who showed me that photo, but it was very interesting. That root system looked like lettuce flaps.
Yeah.
You know, because they had dug up the plant. And it was very wild. So it does make sense to fertilize if you have just a big bluestem Indian grass, switchgrass. It does make sense on year like 5 or 6. You know, they've already dug their roots deep, and you don't have any. There's no nitrogen. You don't have any legumes in there. We probably made a mistake when there was planting going on. There was probably a mistake that happened. But if that is your scenario, and you say I get a lot of pheasants in here, I want to keep the bird habitat with these grasses, that kind of makes sense for fertilizer. Otherwise, no, I wouldn't. Now, if you have like strict clay because you're in a new development and they strip the topsoil off in those new developments, which I think is like a crime, but I understand it goes into their mathematics on a construction company. They can sell that soil. Then maybe it makes sense to build
soil to people that need topsoil now.
Because someone else ripped up theirs 10 years ago. Well, maybe it makes sense to build up some organic matter, but not fertilizing. And then for watering, yes, do not make them dependent on your watering. So the only reason I would do it is if you have a small area in your yard, you can easily water it and it'll extend. So if you plant June 20th, well, then maybe I would look into watering once every week or two through July and August.
Nothing like a lawn.
Yeah, not a sprinkler sitting there every day. Don't do anything like that. These are drought tolerant species. So the only reason I would do it is if you ended up planting a little later than you would have liked to. But that's not an excuse to plant July 20th. You know, I wouldn't do that. We did with our common mountain mint. And
we ran drip line irrigation.
Yep, but that was like an emergency matters.
That was a fun day
for unknown levels of success yet.
Well, and it set us back a whole year because if we would have planted it in May last year, we wouldn't have gotten a harvest last year. We would have gotten a harvest this year.
Yeah.
Well, we planted, so we're not going to get a harvest this year.
No.
You know, we'll have to get it next year. So there was, and we had to water.
I found a great way to wrap those drip lines up real quick.
Kid tried to mow the. Yeah. Anyway,
I would chop them up. Did not chop them up.
All right.
They turn into a solid pretty fast.